Hello, it's Gray.
Hello, it's Crystal.
And this is Best Asian Beauties, a supernatural commentary podcast where I, someone who has seen this show many, many times.
And I, someone who only knows the show through social media, discuss every single episode of Supernatural from start to finish. Also, we are both Asian.
Both Asian. For today's episode, we will be discussing Season 5, Episode 14, My Bloody Valentine, written by Ben Edlund, directed by Mike Roll. Air date February 11, 2010. So near
quite
Valentine's
close
Day.
to Valentine's, yeah. Nice of them to time it like that.
Yeah, I like this episode. I thought it was fun. I think it's like they do some character stuff in it, which is fun.
Yeah.
Cass is here, like he's in the episode, which is so wonderful, and they're only able to do it because they power him down. Which is, I mean, fine. I mean, whatever gets Cass actually to be in the episode. And also, it's fun because, like, you know, Cass is here and is interacting with Sam and Dean. So, that's wonderful. Also, like, did you notice how, like, I don't think the supernatural writers at this point, or honestly at any point in the show, actually knew how to write, like, the three of them together. Because, like, the moment they were like, okay, Cass, you're coming with us, they, like, they put Sam in a bank vault. And I understand that, like, it's important to Sam's journey. But, like, I don't know, it's just kind of wild to me. Because, like, I feel like we just don't ever see them, at this point, be the three of them. Even last episode where they established Team Free Will.
Yeah. Yeah, it is odd. I don't, like, they've done trio-ish hunts before. Like, Sarah came with them for the last part of Providence, for example. And I feel like she was incorporated into it, like, pretty okay. So, it's not just that they, like, don't know how to write groups of three working together. I don't know. I guess they just haven't figured out the individual dynamics between them yet.
Yeah, I think because with Sarah, there's, like, a very clear dynamic of, like, it's Sarah and Sam who are, like, connected. And
Dean's like, haha.
Yeah.
I hope my brother gets to fuck a woman. Yeah.
Versus, I guess here where those lines are less established, or, like, more established, but, like, between Cass and Dean, so their response is just, let's get Sam out of the way, or whatever.
I don't know, maybe we'll see more of the three of them in the future. I don't know about that, though. It is my understanding that the Sam and Cass relationship always takes a backseat to the Dean and Cass one, because Dean is just the main guy who has friendships with other characters.
You know what is crazy to me this episode is, like, this is, like, something happens to Sam. Like,
and it ends on Dean, and the episode ends on Dean being sad. Like, I don't care that he's depressed. Like, we knew that already. Like, whatever. Like, we're all depressed. Get over it.
Not only does it end on Dean, it, like, everything is about Dean this episode. Like,
yeah, it sucks.
It's so mind-boggling because, like, there's actually a guy here where something is happening to.
The entire thing in season 4 was like this, and you bring it back, and the only point is for Dean to be like, oh, I'm so sad. Like, okay, whatever.
Okay, well, 514 My Bloody Valentine. Crystal, what did you know about this episode before you watched it?
My notes on what I know are, like, longer than my actual notes on the episode because I didn't care that much throughout it. But yeah, they go to a town where famine is and everyone is prey to their hungers, and Sam really wants demon blood and Cass really wants to eat raw meat off the ground, but Dean is unaffected because as famine tells him he's empty inside and wants nothing. They tie Sam up and he drinks a bunch of demon blood and kills all of Famine's demon friends. Earlier, Cupid comes and is naked and hugs Cass, and then we get the reveal that the Mary John relationship was a setup by Heaven. There's also the Castiel phone call scene where Cass asks Dean where he is, and he's like, the basement of this hospital, and Cass says, I'm there now, right in front of his face, and Dean says, I can see that. And also, it opens with a couple biting each other to death. I wish that was me.
You know, I forgot about the phone call. I only realized it was happening when Sam was like, it's Enochian. And I was like, oh my god, they need to call Cass. Oh my god, it's the phone call scene. Yeah. Well, bless the fucking telephone, I guess. But this is a different vibe. This is a different vibe from that.
I think that clip is still in the AMV, though.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Or I'd assume that it is. Yeah.
This I feel like this is the first actual queerbait. Because 503 was not queerbait, I don't think. I think that one they were making fun of Cass. That's a different thing. And this one I suppose it can be that they're also just making fun of Cass. Yeah, but what about that? But what about that look that Dean gives him later, where he's like,
"I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, what?"
I'll point it out later. But at the end of that scene, Cass says something, and Dean goes and checks him out. It's so odd. I thought it was so odd. And I forget that it happens here. Because, to me, the essential Castiel that you should remember are, the story arcs, right? The plots and, the actual, meaningful shit, not the queerbait. But, I don't know. I was like, damn, they really are queering this bait. Huh. Or baiting this queer, I guess.
I really don't remember anything like that happening, but I trust that your Castiel senses are more sensitive than mine in the correct direction. So, all right.
What is the wrong direction of Castiel sensitivity?
Oh, just reading too much into things that weren't intended as bait or whatever.
Ah, yeah. I think this is the first Castiel queerbait, and it will not be the last. But yeah, yes. We start the episode with a couple who just got, the guy just delivered the girl home after their first date. And they seem to like each other, I guess. I actually wasn't sure. I was like, is she gonna let him down easy? But apparently they want to fuck each other raw.
But not even in the street. Famine's not powerful enough if they made it to the apartment. They should have been Aziraphale and Crowley.
You know what's so funny is the moment the girl bites the guy and she goes, oh, I think I bit you. I was like, Aziraphale and Crowley should do this. They should do this 100%.
Yeah. They won't die from it.
Yeah, exactly. So they should do it. They're like, are we gonna meet again? Or the guy was like, are we gonna meet again? Because I don't want to be alone on Valentine's Day. And she was like, yeah, I get what you mean. And then they kiss, and then they go to her place, and then she takes a bite out of his neck, and he's like, so hot. And then they have this talk about I'm so empty. I'm so empty. Yeah. Which is so fun. And then they just bite each other to death.
Yeah.
Not bite, they bite off.
They bite and chew. They eat each other to death. Yeah.
Wonderful. Love this scene.
So good.
So good. We go to the actual episode, and Sam is interviewing somebody who I guess lived in this house, and he's like, so what happened? And she was like, yeah, I found them, and so much blood and other things. And she was like, my roommate was dead already, but the guy was still chewing a little bit. And
so true.
And she talks a little bit about how the girl is actually quite doesn't do this. What did she say? Like, she never drank, never even swore. She was a nice girl. Like, she still had her promise ring, if you know what I mean. And then Sam just goes, she was a virgin.
Well, I guess that's relevant for, like, demon
for Sam,
stuff, right?
it is. It's relevant for Sam. It's just extremely funny that, like, the roommate was, like, trying to be subtle about it. Or, like, you know, speak in innuendo. And Sam's like, oh, so she has never fucked in her life. Yeah, they established that. And that it was her first date in months. And then, you know, they ate each other to death. Yeah. So,
Sam enters the motel room, and he's got food, and he's, like, sipping from, like, a straw in a drink or something, which I think was fun. Like, we don't get to see Sam eat as much as we see Dean eat. I hope it was pink lemonade. But, yeah.
What's the relevance of pink lemonade in Sam's life?
Oh.
Nothing? You just like it?
Yeah, I think it's a fun drink to be into because it, like, does taste the exact same as regular lemonade, but you're like,
it's just fun.
You know, yeah. I want something, like, fun in my life. Like, it feels like it's a different flavor even though it isn't.
Yeah, it's essential.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's nice if Sam gets to indulge in sugar in some form. There was no EMF and also no sulfur, so there was no possession involved. Dean has been at the coroner, and I don't know, he just didn't really find anything. So Sam's like, okay, I'll do research tonight, and you can go out and unleash the Kraken. And by this, he means that on Valentine's Day, Dean loves to go out and fucking suck because of all the bars full of lonely women. And Dean's just like, I'm just not really, interested. I don't want to. Yeah. I'm not interested. And Sam is like, what? He goes, that's when a dog doesn't, like, when a dog doesn't eat, that's when you know something's really wrong, which I find quite funny, and Dean calls him patronizing. And they move on. We get another scene of people in the town where, wait, do we discuss the last thing? I don't know, I don't really give a fuck. Like, people, I feel like people, like, what is my point? I think people first have the, you know, the people who are like, Dean only has sex with women because he's trying to maintain an image for Sam specifically.
I don't agree with all of this.
I don't agree with any of those things. Yeah, but it's just very funny.
You know what's so fascinating is recently I have been exposed to more Dean girl content for some reason.
Why?
Than I usually am. And sometimes I will read the six and I'll be like, that's completely wrong. Like, I understand that Supernatural is a complex show and we've talked about, like, how you're able to interpret many things about many things, but, like, sometimes it's like, I think you're just ignoring things. Like, you know, if you believe that Dean is gay, good for you, I think. That's so condescending. How do I word that better? If you think Dean is gay, that's fine. I think that's better. But I do find, like, a lot of the, like, evidence people put out to be like, well, I don't know about that.
It's just like, I think he's just a misogynist.
Yeah,
is what you're pointing out.
Misogynistic. And, like, you know, I know Supernatural is never beating the so misogynistic it turns gay allegations, but, like, I feel like maybe as fan interpretations, we don't need to do all that, maybe. Like, I think a lot about, we have a mutual friend who once said that, like, I don't want to think Dean is gay because it's just so sad. Like, if he's gay, that's just so sad. And I find that so funny, and I think I have like that kind of perspective as well. Like, I don't know. Why did you bring that up? Like, why did you bring up the question of like Dean is performing masculinity for Sam?
Because of the scene where Sam. Well, we just had a scene where Sam's like, "You don't want to go out and fucking suck women. Like something's deeply wrong with you," but like as a joke.
Yeah. But we know that Dean has fucked and sucked even when Sam wasn't around to know of it. Like Lisa was not when Sam was around thing. Cassie as well. So like I don't know, it's just I don't think it's true.
It's a very simplified view. A simplified and incorrect view of Dean's relationship to masculinity.
I mean, definitely Dean has like a complicated relationship with his father. But like and like masculinity in general. But I don't think I don't know. I know he said what we mean to like fan works, but I do think constantly about that fic, the beat sheet one. Where it's like the evidence for Dean, or like not the evidence, but like people are like, oh, maybe he's gay because he doesn't like fuck girls, he just eats them out. Which I always thought was so funny.
It is.
That's so funny. He's not gay, he's a hero. Yeah, well,
honestly, I think Beat Sheet is famous enough that it can be discussed in
the
podcast.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, so we're in the office, or in a office in this town, and there's two co-workers, and one of them is telling the other one that, like, the way that he is getting texted by his new girlfriend of 1 week constantly and constantly keeps texting her back immediately means that he's whipped. The girl shows up. The woman shows up. Her name is Janice. The guy who she's dating is named Jim. So, and she's like crying with like runny mascara, and she's wearing like this evening gown / cocktail dress. I don't know what the difference between them is, but she's wearing like this fancy dress. Like, where was she before this? What was she doing? I don't get why she's dressed like this. But she says that, like, I can't believe you chose work over me. And like the coworker is like, wow, you're like so whipped, and then she shoots him dead. So real. Yeah. And then like Janice and Jim are
I actually
like,
find
really
the
close.
like gag of like when they were talking and Janice was like, oh, we're going to be separated. It's just like we're always separated by something, by work, by
family,
sleep,
and
now even
prison.
jail. And then like it pans to the guy who's like still like flailing around a little bit. It was so funny.
Yeah, pretty good. But yeah, basically the two of them are talking and they're just like obsessed with each other, and they're like, well, we can never be like truly fully 100% together the way that we want to. And then Jim suggests that they just kill themselves in order to stay together forever. And they do. So we cut to Sam and Dean in a mortuary. They're on pretty friendly terms with Dr. Corman, who works down there. They just are left to their own devices.
They start like examining, I don't know, the heart and the insides of the guy who just died. Which one are they looking into? The one where they like ate each other, right? I did find this quite charming, but like at some point, like there's this, heart, and Dean like goes to Sam and like shoves it to Sam a little bit and goes to be my Valentine, which is like very siblings of them. I thought it was so funny.
Yeah.
Sam finds an Enochian sigil in one of the hearts, and they seem to match to the other heart. So he's like, oh no, we need to call, I don't know, an angel. So they call Cass, and specifically Dean calls Cass, and yeah, he is telling Cass where they are and like, you know, what basement level and etc. But before he gets to finish, Cass is already in front of him, and they're standing quite close to each other. And yeah, the music is like that silly, goofy music that Supernatural plays when there's silly, goofy things happening. And Cass is like, I'm there now. And they're still on the phone. And Dean goes, yeah, I get that. And Cass goes, I'm gonna hang up now. And Dean goes, right. They're cute, so I suppose. They are. Yeah. You know, the thing is like, my feelings for Castiel really like wavers so back and forth so intensely. Like sometimes I'm like, they're the most horrible pairing in the world. I can't believe Dean does this to Cass ever. And then, you know, sometimes you're like, well, I get why I was obsessed with these two for forever. Yeah, but this is Queerbait. We must admit. Cass explains that the marks are that of, quote, Cupid, which is actually a cherub, which is a lower order of an angel.
And it's for a man and woman who are intended to mate specifically. So, like, angel bloodlines?
Yeah. And it seems to be like a bloodline thing primarily, as, you know, the Cupid or the angel cherub explains later on. Mm-hmm. And Cass is like, well, there must be a Cupid that has gone rogue and we need to kill him. we need to attack and kill that guy. Sam goes like naturally, and this is the scene that I'm talking about. Like Dean like looks at Cass and goes and like nods a little bit and goes, of course we do. And it's like a certain look, and I'm like, what are they doing?
I think it's just that Dean thinks that the situation is ridiculous. Look, I didn't get anything else out of it.
Are you looking at it right now?
No, I remember it, though.
Okay, fine. I thought it was... I mean, I'm not saying that this is, like, evidence that they're gay or whatever. I'm just, like, I think they're queerbaiting us. What do you think about that, like, statement that, like, Supernatural doesn't count as queerbait anymore because, like,
oh, no, it does.
It's canon. I think it fully does count as queerbait. I think queerbait is... Yeah, like... They queerbaited first.
It's about the intentions when they were writing it.
And then they queerbaited too close to the sun, and that's how we got what we got at the end. Mm-hmm. But it was still queerbait. They just did it so much that they couldn't back out. Anyway, now they're at a diner. And did you see what Sam orders? He orders like a salad, right? And Dean orders a cheeseburger. And he is putting ketchup on the burger. And Cass is like looking at this quite intently. And Cass is like, this is a place where the Cupid would be. And he would come here to pollinate. He's so fine. And Dean finally settles with his burger, but as he's about to take a bite, he puts it back down. And it's so like in your face.
Yeah.
It's quite funny, but yeah, Sam is like, wait, so like, you're not hungry? Does anyone else think that Sam is kind of annoying with all these questions in this episode? I mean, I know he goes through a lot.
I mean, the point is to point out, like, that Dean isn't engaging in things. Like, we don't know that Sam for real would say this, but yes, he is being a bit...
They're using him as a pawn in this scene. Like, I don't think he would say this. I think he'll raise his eyebrow maybe, but like he won't be like, you're not hungry. Anyway, Cass is like, OMG, you're not gonna eat that. And then he takes the burger and he almost takes a bite. But then he's like, oh, the Cupid is here. And yeah, we see like some fluttering of wings, fluttering of a Cupid's bow and whatever. And yeah, Cass is like, he's there now. And there's a couple that are making out in a booth. And Cass just goes, meet me in the back. And then he disappears.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they go to the back, Cass is like holding his hand up to like something we can't see, and he's like, I have him tethered, and then he does some Enochian. He says something in Enochian, and then he goes, manifest yourself. And then the Cupid appears, and like it's a gag bit where the Cupid is like a naked man, and he's like hugging Dean and like almost picking him up off the floor, and he's very excited, very happy. And yeah, he hugs Dean, and then he picks Cass up next, and then he picks Sam up next. And you know, like there's this, I did find the lines between Dean and Cass like quite charming. Yeah, and like Dean just goes,
what lines?
No, I just think they're cute this episode. Leave me alone. I'm so defensive. I'm so sorry.
It'd be helpful for us to know which lines.
No, I'm about to say
as it. Listeners. Okay.
Like Dean goes like, is this a fight? Are we in a fight? Which I did think is like so indicative of Dean Winchester. And Cass is like, no, this is their handshake. And he goes, I don't like it. And Cass goes, well, no one likes it. And Cass confronts the Cupid on like, oh, the people you're pairing up, they're fucking killing each other or whatever. The Cupid is like upset that Cass would think this. And he's like, he starts crying. And like there's this bit where Sam and Dean are like, so like, are we supposed to like talk to him? Like, I think maybe somebody should. And Dean just goes, yeah, good idea. Go get him, Cass.
Give him hell, Cass.
Yeah, give him hell, Cass.
Which is truly a phrase to use when you're telling someone to go comfort somebody else.
Love that. And Cass, you know, can't say no, I guess. Because obviously Sam doesn't want to do it either. I do find it so fascinating that like Sam is often like, you know, like, oh, Dean, I can't believe you're treating me like your younger brother. But every time Cass is around, they do like in tandem treat Cass as like the third brother. As they say at the last episode of Supernatural, he's the third brother of the show. Yeah. I mean, of course, everyone is thinking about that scene in Hunter Heroic where they put Cass in the back seat. But yeah, I think it's so cute. And Cass, you know, very awkward, is like, and then he starts walking towards the Cupid. And then he goes, we didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
And then before hurt your feelings, he goes, we didn't mean to. And then he turns around to Sam and Dean, and they both like go, like, they like thumbs up him or like they nod. They're like, so yeah, you got this.
So cute. And then the Cupid turns around, hugs Cass. And the Cupid is like, love is more than a word to me, you know, I love love. I love it. And if that's wrong, I don't want to be right. Which is a line that I remember very well. I think because of the delivery. But yeah, Cass is like he's, you know, the Cupid is hugging him, but he starts like raising his hand like to like tap the Cupid's back. And then he goes like, yes, of course, and he's really trying, but then he just goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he's so cute. I feel like I have forgotten how much I like Cass in this past few season 5 episodes. Just because he's not around a lot. And like, when he is, it's like, it's so serious. Like, it's so serious. But he's here. And like, I love him. It's kind of like, everybody knows this. Everybody listening to us, including me and you, know this. But like, Cass is like actually like my favorite character, like in all of media, and it always takes me aback when I remember, because like, I don't know, I feel like I've loved many other characters in the world, but Cass is he's still number one.
Yeah, wait, where do we do the portrayal of the Cupid is probably homophobic part?
Oh, is it? Why is it homophobic?
Okay, I think Okay, first there's just the general, like, unmasculine man thing where, you know, he cries and that's supposed to be ridiculous, and he loves love and that's supposed to be ridiculous. But then there's also the fact that he first appears naked hugging Dean from behind, and I feel like that is meant to be a gag of the homophobic nature.
I think what I just saw it as is actually like infantilizing. And like,
Yeah,
I don't
think
know,
that
maybe
could also be
fatphobic, but like
perfect.
I didn't read it as like homophobic really.
Yeah, I guess that is another route to go.
Yeah.
Either way, the joke, when Supernatural makes a joke, it usually comes from something that is not pleasant. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I just didn't think of this as homophobia. Yeah. The Cupid tells Cass to like read his mind. Which I did like because it, implies that like Cass doesn't usually do that. Like he needs to put in effort or like do it consciously to read minds. Which I do like. I like that. Anyway, there's like close-up shots of like Cass's eyes and the Cupid's eyes. And then Cass slowly turns around and goes, he's telling the truth.
Dean asks what orders Cupid was following when he was making all the marks on the hearts, and Cupid says that he was following Heaven's orders, and most of the time Heaven doesn't interfere in romantic matters, but there are certain bloodlines and certain destinies that they do. And he says, like yours, the union of John and Mary Winchester, very big deal upstairs, top priority arrangement. And Dean asks, like, what do you, like, you fixed up our parents? And the Cupid says that it wasn't him directly, but it wasn't easy because they couldn't stand each other at first. But when we were done with them, perfect couple. So fucked up. Love it.
I do also love it.
And yeah, as we know, he says that it was because Dean and Sam needed to be born, and their parents were just meant to be.
I think this is so interesting. I do.
Yes.
Like, I think the concept of like, especially because like Mary comes back and John like shows up. John is there for like a day and they're still in love. The idea of like something like love being at the hands of someone else, but like you're still the one who's experiencing it. Like, I think that's the aspect of the John Mary story that I find the most interesting and fascinating. Like, I think there's so many like conceptualizations of Mary where she's like, when she realizes this, she's like, like, oh, I don't love John anymore or whatever. But like, I think I personally find more interesting the idea of like knowing full well that this is like out of your control, literally because somebody else is controlling it. And but like, well, what do? You still love the person. Like, it's still like a real emotion that you're feeling, even though you're manipulated to it by Heaven. And I think that kind of like idea like cascades really well to the rest of Supernatural. Like, obviously, like, I don't think Sam and Dean are like manipulated feelings wise in the duration of the show, but like there are aspects of it I feel like, I don't know, like especially with Sam later on with regards to like Lucifer and how, like Lucifer in that episode where Lucifer brings him back from the dead, and like I feel like that's like the opposite of this, right? Like, well, I don't know. Like, I think it's such an interesting concept, and it's one of my biggest gripes when they did the Winchesters.
Yeah.
That like, I know full well that they're not gonna engage with this with any of the complexity that I want them to. Actually, I have not watched the Winchesters, so maybe they did, but I highly doubt it.
I don't think they do.
I was gonna say maybe I would have seen more of it on my timeline if they did, but like I literally have every single thing about the Winchesters blocked, so like probably not also. Mm-hmm. If the Winchesters acknowledge the complexity of fate and free will and how love is affected by that in the TV show The Winchesters, let us know. We'll be happy to hear about it. Or maybe not. I don't know. I don't think I'll be happy, but we'll hear about it.
We will.
I think there's an AMV of like, I'll try to find it, of John and Mary fireproof One Direction. And I do think about it a lot, and I think about it specifically in this context of like, well, you know, it's been so long, baby, we're fireproof. Also, everybody in heaven and all of our lives are like completely manipulated so that we're here together. It's kind of crazy.
It is. And okay, Dean reacts by punching Cupid.
Well, first,
and then
I find
Sam,
what Dean said of like when the Cupid was like, they're a perfect couple, Dean's like, perfect, they're dead.
They're dead.
I think that is an interesting reaction.
It's a very interesting way to think of like what makes a couple good. Like, I don't think of their survival rate as part of it.
Yeah, well,
but
every couple dies, Dean. Like, I don't know if you know this, but
yeah, I hate to break it to you, but like
immortality does not exist for humanity. Yeah,
it's not that like she died and then like left him like a far worse person than he was before. It's that they're both dead is what he has an issue with. So like, yeah, I don't know what it means. I guess he assumes that like people who are chosen by heaven for a specific fate would have a form of protection. Is that what he means?
I mean, definitely not. I think it's just like you messing with their life led to them dying.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. I don't think it's about like, well, when you shot the Cupid's arrow, you should have made it so that they have
the
immortality
arrow too. Yeah.
I think it's more of like that is actually what directly caused their death, like me and Sam being born.
This is true. I mean, I guess this is right after Song Remains the Same.
Yeah.
Sam and Dean literally like probably like 2 days ago to Dean. Like, tried to get Mary to leave John. And she was like, no, I can't, and it's because of this. And then, like, he tried to get Mary to at least leave the nursery, or leave the nursery alone the night that Sam gets fed demon blood. And once more, heaven swoops in and prevents that from happening. So, it's a good build-up of the ongoing, like, you can't escape your fate, etc., thing. And it goes back even further than you thought every time you look. Yeah, but this just feels like this never ever comes up again in the entire show, right?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Yeah. So, I don't know, it's kind of fun that I feel like Bedlam just made like an executive decision to throw this lore in, and like everyone else ignored it, but like also I'm not ignoring it.
In the future, when we get, Cupid stuff again, it's never treated with the, this idea
There's
anymore.
More Cupid stuff?
Yeah, Cass is transphobic in that episode, remember?
Oh yeah. I didn't know that was a Cupid episode.
It was. The plot is like, they need to get a Cupid's bow, so they need to find a Cupid, so they need to find a couple that a Cupid will attack. And then, like, they thought it was, like, the bartender who's a woman and, like, her customer. But turns out the bartender woman is Cupid, and the two male customers are, like, in love.
I've seen gifs of this.
Yeah.
Probably in, like, one of the, like, compilations of Dean reacting to gay people.
Yeah. So that's a Cupid scene, and it's not, it's not treated with... But how does that work? I thought it was like male and female to mate or whatever. Well, maybe one of them is transgender.
Yeah.
Trans-inclusive, controlling of your fate and free will.
Exactly. But yeah, so Dean's reaction to all of this is to punch Cupid, who disappears. And Sam just doesn't react at all. The only thing Sam goes is like, Dean, like, are you okay? You've been acting weird. I can't believe you punched that guy. Like, does he not
the time and place.
Does Sam not, like, what does Sam think about this? Hello? Can anyone hear me? What? Like, we get that Dean's upset. Like, does Sam just not give a fuck?
It is so funny. The conclusion is like, I can't believe Dean punched this fucking guy. And it's like, I feel like we have experienced a reveal that is pretty substantial, I believe.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty big deal. Like, it's the reason that John and Mary are dead, and, like, one could argue it's the reason that they experienced so much abuse, because, like, they, like, made John so dependent on Mary in a specific way. So, like, does Sam not think anything about it? He's just like, Dean, like, focus on the case, are you okay? Like, whatever, Sam, do you have thoughts about this? You're, like, very angsty about being Lucifer's vessel. Like, this is more regarding that. Nothing? No?
No.
I guess not. Dean's just like, I don't want to talk about what's been up with me recently.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, the way Sam asks it is like, what's that? So are we going to talk about what's up with you or not? And Dean goes, or not. And I was like, Sam, you set yourself up for that. You really, really did. You should have just said, let's talk about what's up with you.
Yeah.
It's like you've never been...
Okay, wait. We didn't talk about the then sequence.
Was there one?
Yeah, there was a then sequence.
What's it?
It was like Sam drinking demon blood, blah, blah, blah. And then Dean being depressed, blah, blah, blah. And the Dean depressed stuff was like... I mean, there was him looking at the picture of him and Joe burning. And then there was... I don't remember the rest of it mostly. But what I do remember is that it ends on Dean in 420. Sam, Sam's like... This isn't in the then sequence, but the context of the line is that Sam's like, please let me explain about the demon blood. Whatever, and Dean's like, I did gaff. And then the line that they keep in is like, I'm just tired, man. I'm done. I am just done. And they took that so completely out of context and ended the then sequence on that to be like, wow, Dean's depressed. Like, that's a different thing. Ago. That's a completely different thing. That was a season ago, and it was about a completely different thing than Dean not having desires or, like, being sad or whatever. And I just think that's a really... good example of the way that Sam gets completely trodden over for Dean character development this episode.
Yeah. Exactly. Anyway, there's like more people who are dying from stuff.
Well, I guess what's important is that these people are clearly not dying from love like this guy died from like eating
from food, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Sam is on a phone call with Dean, and he's like, well, it's not just, the Cupid stuff. It's also food. Like, people OD'd and stuff. So it's probably a lot bigger than we thought. And then Sam sees a guy in the street. Oh, we forgot to mention, like, earlier, Sam also does this too.
At the hospital.
Yeah, and... he is able to feel pretty much immediately that this guy is a demon. And he says later, when he attacks the guy and has Ruby's knife against his face, that he could smell him. Pretty fun.
So true.
As the demon is carrying a briefcase which he drops and Sam picks up. And, you know, there's also like a moment where Sam slices like the demon's face, and now there's blood on the knife, and we see him like look at it and, I don't know, feel something, but he cleans the blade off and he goes back to the motel room.
Sam and Dean are talking about this, and Dean asks, "You okay?" And Sam says, yeah, I'll be all right," which I think was a nice moment, I suppose.
What's up with you, Dean? Are we gonna talk about it? I'm alright.
So
literally that post, it's like the entirety of Supernatural. It's just Sam going, "Dean, you need to talk about your feelings," and the moment Dean does, Sam's just like, "Okay."
Well,
so true.
Anyway, so they open the suitcase, and there's like this blinding bright white light that comes out of it. And Cass shows up and says
he's eating a burger.
It's a human soul. And he's got a burger in a bag. It doesn't look very good. Like the bread looks like really pale.
They like, say it's a White Castle, which I know that
do
brand
White Castle
from
burgers
Good
have
Mythical
pale?
Morning.
No, I mean the bread is like golden brown on top.
Yeah.
In some of these pictures. Yeah, the burgers that Cass eats this episode all look so undercooked. But, yeah.
I guess he loves it raw, so.
The bread, too?
Yeah, he's not even baking the bread.
But, yeah, so he's chowing down on the burger.
And, like, the entire time he's talking, he is chowing down on this, which is pretty fun.
Mm-hmm. And he's saying that his hunger is a clue, and Famine, the horseman, is in town. And it's not just starvation for food, it's for anything that you're metaphorically starving for, such as sex, attention, drugs, love. And on drugs, I think it, like, he kind of looks at Sam, but then, like, after he says love, it does cut to Dean, and I think people do think about this sometimes. And, like, it does seem like it may be set up in this way. I feel like this is probably just, like, another small Lisa precursor thing.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I have seen an analysis of this episode that leans on, like, yeah, they're saying Dean doesn't crave anything, but, like, him and Cass are in love.
Oh, like, he craves Cass's company or something?
Which I just don't think is true. Like, I just don't think that's what the episode is doing. But, you know, love is love, I guess.
Happy Pride Month. If we get this out by then.
We will. Don't denigrate my ability to get an episode out.
Right,
even though I have proven
will.
time and time again that I cannot get an episode out on time for the love of God.
And then Cass says that his burger thing is from Jimmy because he has an appetite for red meat. I love that, like, Jimmy's had, like, the world's most miserable life for the last few years. Like, separated from his family, shot in the stomach, like, daughter threatened to be murdered in front of him, and, like, ridden by this angel who keeps putting him in danger. Apparently the main thing that Jimmy still craves is burger. Like, that's so right.
He wants a burger. He's American.
He is.
He ate Five Guys once, and he's like, I fully understand the American experience. But completely removed from the fact that he's an American citizen. It's just from the Five Guys.
Yeah, exactly. Cass starts reciting, I think, fake Bible lines over clips of famine, where, you know, famine... Oh, then will come famine riding on a black steed. He will ride into the land of plenty, and great will be the horseman's hunger, for he is hunger. his hunger will seep out and poison the air. And as this is happening, we see Famine exit a black car. He's like a very thin, very old man. And he's in a wheelchair because I think the idea is just that he's so hungry and like malnourished that he can't really walk. And yeah, he has a group of demons that are all helping him out. And he goes into a bigger sense, and everyone immediately starts like stuffing themselves with food, or like having sex, or like stealing money and all that shit. How do you die from stealing money? Like where's that waitress gonna go after this? That's Famine. He's in there and he goes hungry.
Hungry like a baby. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything to say about Famine being a wheelchair user?
I don't know, probably, but
yeah. I feel like probably, but I don't know what it is to be said.
I have been thinking about it, of like, what are they trying to say here? Like, what are the implications? But I can't surmise.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. When's the last time we saw Bobby?
Oh my god, you're right. When was the last time we saw Bobby? Let's see. Abandon All Hope. But he doesn't, like, he barely shows up for that one. Like, Dean calls him.
Right. Yeah.
Oh no! They have the they have the pre going out.
Yeah.
So yeah, Abandon All Hope is the last we see of Bobby. Been a while.
I mean, I feel like the Famine thing would be worse if he was the only wheelchair user on the show, but I feel like the wheelchair is part of it's meant to be part of the creep factor of him.
The wheelchair is, because they are trying to do like what is his horseman, or like his horse. And I guess the wheelchair is his horse, and that's how they do it.
But he's in a black car, and they show the black car when Cass is saying the black. Did they really? Line.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
And it was I think in the then sequence they mention, oh yeah, they have war in there too, to show the ring cutting off, and they mentioned the thing about the red car. So I think it is cars for the horses.
Yeah.
In this show. So I don't think that's what the wheelchair is supposed to be.
I don't know.
Because, I mean, he's the only horseman who's in a wheelchair also, right?
Again, I'm not sure. I know Death isn't, and I know War isn't.
Yeah, I don't remember what Pestilence, or I don't think I've seen anything about Pestilence on the Tumbles.
I just know that Pestilence is the episode where Cass took a bus.
Aww.
You know that one? Why, Cass, you're here. Or how are you here? I took a bus. I love him. And he tells Dean that you are not the hollow shell of a man that I thought you were. And Dean goes, thank you. Love that.
That is fun.
Cass is like kind of like a comic relief. Huh?
Yeah.
And that's so nice to me. Even though he's blue stealing his way through this episode for a lot of it.
Cass is?
The scene where they're like, it's him and Dean, and they're talking to the mortuary people. And Cass is just like in the back, like scrunching his face.
Aww. I guess I still am not quite sure.
What a blue steel is.
No, what they're doing with the Famine in the wheelchair, which was what we were talking about before we got distracted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that, like, wheelchaired villains are, like, a trope, though, right?
Like, I'm not sure.
Like Doc Ock.
You know what? Like, I don't know who Doc Ock is. Oh, it's Spider-Man.
From Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
But, okay, disabled villains is a trope. And I think that, like, villains who use wheelchairs are part of that. Though usually they're, like, I don't know, like, high-powered wheelchairs in some way. like there's guns in them and that's part of the fight or whatever. I mean, I feel like, okay, like War was clearly like he was portrayed as like a regular guy who was kind of annoying.
Yeah.
And I think Famine, you know, with the going like hungry and all that, like I feel like they are attempting to portray him as more
senile.
Yeah, like
yeah,
senile, like yeah, like he is like an old man and like he has all the demons here to take care of him because he's like a feeble old man. But Death is also an old man and he's like
not feeble.
He's not feeble.
Yeah.
And I think it's like it's a malnutrition thing that they're trying to portray.
I mean, I think I realized that now. After you mentioned it, I was like, oh, yeah, I suppose that's what they're doing. But, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So, Cass says that Famine needs to devour the souls of his victims. So, I guess this demon goes to the morgue and then gets the souls that are still in the bodies.
I don't know how that works.
Like, isn't that guy in, like, heaven or hell by now? What is the soul?
Like, why is it tethered to the body? I guess if, like, you know, they can explain their way out of this. Or at least I can. They don't bother.
God, this is so dumb. Cass is like, Lucifer has sent his demons to care for Famine, to feed him, to make certain he'll be ready. And Sam goes, ready for what? Like, bro, is this not the apocalypse season about how the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are gonna do the apocalypse?
Fucking
whatever. But yeah, Cass goes to march across the land. To march across the land? Is the implication that if he eats enough souls, like Famine can walk?
Huh. I mean...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad, like, I was, like... I feel like many times when they introduce a character who's in a wheelchair at some point, especially if they're the villain, they're like... They stand up at some point. It's like, oh my god, like, gasp, this fight has just gone to a whole new level and it just feels quite ableist. So at least that didn't happen in this episode. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know what to march across the land means exactly here. So maybe Sam wasn't asking a stupid question.
Yeah, because you also don't know what the fuck Cass is saying.
Yeah. And then we get a scene of the demon that Sam attacked earlier coming to Famine, and he tells him that Sam is here and that he got Sam's motel room key, so they know where he is. And Famine's like, awesome, great, but like, can I have my soul now for lunch, please? And you know, it's like very... like, desperate, hungry, like, the way it's being played. The demon is like, sorry, and Famine, like, shouts, hungry, now, and then he, like, does the thing he does the thing where he takes the black smoke out of the demon, and then he eats it, and apparently it's delicious.
How does that work?
Yeah, so, okay, demon souls... can also be eaten by Famine. The black smoke is a demon soul. A human soul is a bright blinding white light. Yeah, I just don't... Yeah, like, what's the point of all this, then?
Like, I mean,
like,
we can surmise
surrounded by potential food.
We can surmise that, like, Lucifer is sending these people. So, like, I don't think Lucifer gives a shit about the demons. Why not just feed the demons to Famine?
Yeah, if the point is to feed him up to a certain, like, level so that he can do the apocalypse, like, yeah, just feed him some demons. I mean, maybe human souls, like, are more powerful or whatever, but if that was the point, then, like, instead of going, like, delicious, like, Famine should have just been, like, about it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, they could have easily explained this, I guess. I mean, you literally just did. Just as they could have explained, like
one change. Yeah.
Like, they literally could have also explained, like, why, the souls stay, which is, like, when they're ravaged by famine, like, the soul sticks to the body or whatever. Like, it's literally, like, you can literally
like
just
make
shit
up. The
up.
hunger of the body is drawing the soul, like, in or whatever. Yeah.
And, there's, like, what famine says later, that, like, hunger isn't just in the body, it's in the soul, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know. It's, like, yeah. I mean, I like this episode, but the famine stuff specifically is, like, I couldn't quite figure out what they were trying to do. We're back in the motel room, and Sam is having a moment. He is in front of the mirror. He is obviously, like, sweaty and, like, feeling terrible. The three of them are talking about, like, what they ought to do. And Cass is like, how did you stop the last horseman you met? And Dean talks about the ring. And so Cass is like, yeah, we just need to...
Wait, earlier when Sam goes, like, this whole town is just gonna eat, drink, and screw itself to death. And Cass goes, we should stop it. That was so funny.
He thinks we should stop it. Just an idea, you guys. Like, I think maybe we should.
Yeah, okay, like, shut me down if, like, this is a bit too much, but, like, do you think we should stop it?
I'm just throwing, I'm throwing something at the wall here. Let's just see if it sticks. But
yeah. This is a brainstorm. Like, I mean, let's just let all the ideas come out and percolate. Like, please don't, like, I know that this is, like, kind of dumb, but, like, maybe we should stop it.
We can circle back to it later, but, like, I'm just putting it forward now. Like, we should like, maybe consider stopping it. But, yeah.
So fun, yeah.
Sam continues looking at the mirror, and, like, the background, like, starts zooming out. Like, we start to hear it from Sam's perspective, and we can see, like, his heavy breathing. We can hear it and everything. And Dean and Cass are in the background. And I thought that was cute, which is really funny because, as everyone said, Sam's going through a moment.
Sam's going through something, yeah.
But, Dean is like, what are you, the Hamburglar? And Cassis goes, I've developed a taste for ground beef. And Dean goes, well, have you even tried to stop it? And Cass goes, I'm an angel. I can stop anytime I want. So true. Yeah. So important. Just as Dean was about to tell everyone that they should get going now, Sam comes out of the bathroom and says, I can't go. It got to me, Dean. I think I'm hungry for it. And Dean goes, hungry for what? And Sam goes, And yeah, it's demon blood, baby. And the way Dean reacts to this is so annoying to me. Yeah. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I understand that, like, Dean thinks Sam's demon blood addiction was a choice and everything that he chose for himself, blah, blah, blah. But, like, this is explicitly not his choice. Like, if that is the reason why Dean is mad at him, which Dean has reiterated to be the reason why, then he does not get to be mad at this. Not at all. I think what it is that it's Jensen Ackles. Like, because the script doesn't, like, the dialogue doesn't suggest that much animosity coming from Dean.
Yeah, it's just, you gotta be kidding me, and that can just be directed as, like, oh, like, we need, like, Sam to be part of this mission, so it sucks that famine got to him.
Or it could be, it sucks that famine got to you, period, Like, doesn't have to be, like, blaming Sam, but the way it was acted and the way, like, Dean does his face, it's like, yeah, he's pissed at Sam for some fucking reason. And godly annoying. He tells Cass to bring Sam to Montana. So true. Anywhere but here. And Cass says, yeah, it's not gonna work because he already is hungry and he's just going to like spread the hunger there or something. And Sam is like, yeah, I'll just fucking get the ring. But Sam says, before you do that, you need to lock me down, but good. And yeah, they handcuff Sam. They handcuff Sam to the bathroom sink.
To the pipe of it.
Yeah. What's with the pipes? Like, why are they outside? But whatever.
Sometimes they are.
Yeah, it looks bad though. And I'm assuming it's like awful too for cleaning. Because that's so many crevices, right? Well,
it's true.
They leave. And like, Sam's position is so uncomfortable. Like, his head is like leaning against the sink itself because like the cuff is not long enough for him to be any further. I don't know, it's just, I feel like he should be in a more comfortable place for this, but whatevs.
Yeah. Ugh, poor guy.
I like the shot of Cass like pushing the cabinet with the, and it's like super easy for him over the bathroom door. Lovely.
They go to the hospital and they find out that the doctor, Dr. Corman, is dead. He drank himself to death this morning. And we did start to see some of that when Sam was talking to him last time. He was
he gets a flask out. Yeah.
Dean goes, crap, I really kind of liked this guy. That was my best friend, and I just let him go.
Literally, like, every single time someone dies on Dean, he's like, but that was my bestie.
Are we continuing bestie?
Yeah, but I love it. I love Westy. We are, in fact, in the podcast about the Asian beauties, so it's only appropriate.
It's true.
I always forget that that's our name. Why did we name ourselves Busty Asian Beauties?
Because I thought it would be funny.
I know. And every time someone asks me, like, what do you do? And I somehow, for some fucking ungodly reason, mention I have a podcast, and they ask, what's the title? And I'm like, I can't tell you.
Yeah. The demons haven't harvested Dr. Corman's soul yet, so they are hanging out to see where it goes. And we cut to later, and they're in the Impala. Well, Dean is in the Impala, and then Cass shows up with another burger.
Love that.
True. And when Dean goes, "Are you serious?" Cass goes, "These make me very happy." And he does a little smile, and it's a very nice. Yeah. It's a nice line. It's good to see Cass. Apparently he's had a low hundreds number of burgers so far.
He goes, what I don't understand is, where's your hunger, Dean? Why is even he terrifying me? Like, why are we doing this? Leave him the fuck alone.
Dean says the reason he's unaffected is that when he wants to drink, he drinks. Same with sex, a sandwich, or a fight. So
I love that a fight is like here.
A need for him sometimes. Like, yeah. Like, what? Yeah, it's interesting. I guess, like, they probably just mean hunting being, like, a need, which is already interesting. But this just sounds like he starts shit at bars for no reasons. Because the guy was hot and I want him on me, like that post says. So Cass goes, so you're saying you're just well-adjusted? And Dean goes, God, no. I'm just well-fed. Finally, they see a demon come out of the hospital with the soul, and they follow him. Meanwhile, Sam is in that motel room, and he hears somebody coming in and moving the dresser. And he goes like, guys, what happened? I don't think it worked. Which is cute.
So cute.
I don't know.
Aww,
Sam. The two demons come in. And one of them breaks the handcuffs. And they're like going like, oh, like we can't kill you, but probably we can like chop off a few parts. But Sam, no longer restrained, attacks both of them. He stabs the first one in the neck with a shard of glass and then starts drinking from it, which is real fun. Sam, who now has powers again.
Like another demon is about to attack him. And then he turns around, like, puts his hand out, like, a la power mode.
Him against
and the demon
wall.
Flies against the wall. And
Sam goes, wait your turn.
So wonderful.
Hot.
I started clapping. I thought it's so good.
Yeah. No, it is good.
Cass and Dean are still in the car, and Dean is like, okay, shall we go over the plan, Happy Meal? But like Cass is like not paying attention, so Dean had to like call him again. And then Cass is like, oh, well, I take the knife, I go in, I cut off the ring hand of Famine, and I meet you back here in the parking lot. And Dean's like, well, okay. And then Cass disappears, but doesn't, reappear immediately. So Dean goes out and looks for him. And as he comes in, he sees, like, people who are dead, like, in the restaurant. And then Cass is kneeling on the floor, shoving ground meat that is raw into his mouth. I love him.
Oh, true. You know that post about wanting to take Cass on a date where he eats raw beef?
So important. Well, we should do it.
Yeah.
Call us, Cass.
Wait, but like you've seen the
I
post,
have seen,
right?
of course, yes. It's
of course. Okay, it's famous to me.
I think you reblogged it semi-recently.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. You don't use that account much anymore. So every time
not at all, yeah.
Every time I see you on my timeline, I'm like, wow, Crystal's going wild today. Crystal's having a moment. Yeah, Famine comes in and he calls Dean the other Mr. Winchester, which I quite like. And yeah, he asked about what Famine did to Cass, and Famine said, you sicked your dog on me. I just threw him a steak, which I did like. And Dean goes, this is your big trick, huh? Making people cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. He thought about this line for so long, I bet. He thinks he's so fucking cool and not corny and also charismatic. Famine does some incredibly tepid takes on, like, American consumerism.
Yeah.
And yeah, he says hunger doesn't just come from the body, it also comes from the soul. And Dean's like, well, it doesn't seem to be coming from mine. And Famine goes, yeah, I figured. And then he goes and like touches Dean's chest. It's apparently painful because Dean looks like he's in pain. But for a second, I thought it was like he was anticipating pain because the acting was pretty terrible. So, like, I thought he was, like, bracing himself for pain to come. And then it never comes, except apparently it has already came. Which is so funny. Famine does his little speech of, like, well, you have this deep, dark nothing in you. You can't fill it, not with food or drink, not even with sex. Yeah, you have this hole in you, and you just can't fill it, or whatever the fuck Sam says in season 2.
What you can't just like fill it with whatever you want or something like that.
Yeah, you have this giant hole. I don't think he said giant hole, but he should have. He should have said you have this giant hole, dude. And he says that I can see inside you, Dean. I can see how broken you are, how defeated. You can't win, and you know it. I don't know. I just literally saw that line right now and thought about the ending of Cass's arc in the show. He does say, I know how you see yourself, Dean, right? But I guess it's
I
different.
think so. It's very different, yeah.
You're not hungry, Dean, because inside you're already dead. So fucking corny.
It's dumb.
Dumb
I know
as
people
hell.
care about this scene, but like, whatever. Like, he's not special. Like,
Yeah. Talk to
like,
literally
whatever.
anyone.
Is there anything interesting to be gleaned from this?
I just am not
I mean, I
interested
guess-
in it. I'm sure there's something interesting in it. It's
Yeah.
just not for me. Like, this is not... It's not for me.
Yeah, like the implications is that Dean doesn't even like burgers. Like,
How could
like
he?
you're just
Is
going
he
through
not
the
an American?
motions of eating burgers because you don't actually want burgers.
Yeah. Maybe he ate some ethnic food, like a burrito that he microwaved. Maybe he changed his mind.
Maybe so. God.
And just for clarity, that's like a joke about Cass calling
Yeah,
microwave
Cass
burritos
calling
ethnic
ethnic
food.
food
I'm not doing a racism.
But yeah, I guess it's like this is a recent development because of how he doesn't think he can beat the apocalypse, so he's just been
Has
in like
accepted,
recently
like,
he's just
yeah.
been like pretending to eat burgers and like think women are hot and things, but he hasn't, his heart
pretending to
hasn't really
eat
been into it.
burgers.
But he's actually eating burgers. You're right.
God.
They do go in his mouth.
And I feel like it's very difficult to pretend to eat a burger. You have to commit to that bit.
Well, maybe he's like a very skilled magician like Aziraphale will never be.
Exactly. He does that thing of it like when you're like taking handkerchiefs out of your mouth, like, and so many of them, but with food, and the opposite. So it's a completely different thing, but that's the only magic trick I know.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, I guess this is something. It's just supposed to recontextualize Dean's actions during this season that are relating to his usual hungers as, like, caricatures that he's putting on. Okay. I still don't see why that would mean that Dean would no longer feel the need to keep it up when famine is in town, right? Like, it's not like... Because, like, it's just like, if you have a hunger, he'll increase it. Like, if you don't have a hunger, like, does he amplify the fact that you don't have a hunger? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Like, it should be like everyone
yeah.
is affected and Dean shouldn't be affected at all, but he is affected in the way where he's like, I don't want to eat this. I don't know.
I mean, it could be that, you know what? Maybe he's hungry to not feel something.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I don't know. Which I think is like the only like follow through wherein this works.
Yeah. Okay. I believe it. Whatever.
Yeah.
But then Sam shows up.
Yeah.
And we hear his voice go, let him go. And then
just like
he's
Elsa.
all bloody. Yeah, just like Elsa. He's all bloody. And Dean goes, Sammy, no! And Famine tells the demons not to attack Sam, who he calls a sweet little boy.
I know, I love that. And he was like,
Yeah.
you know, no one can lay a finger on you. And I was like, just like me for real, maybe. Except I think that disqualifies me from being a Sam girl, honestly. Because I feel like all Sam girls
want to see him bloodied and beaten up.
Exactly.
Yeah. And he goes,
There's this
Sam,
poll
I see you got the
recently.
snack I sent you.
There's this poll recently that I saw that was like, if Sam girls, Dean girls, and Cass girls fought each other, who would win? And everyone was like, everyone would lose. And I was like, you guys are so in the wrong. Because the Sam girls are definitely gonna win.
Yeah. They mean a physical fight?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Sam girls got it. It's just, in order to remain a Sam girl in the fandom and not be, like, turned by the fact that there's, like, no content outside of, like, Wincest stuff. Like, you do have to be very strong.
Yeah.
Like, it's a selection thing. Yeah, he tells Sam that the demons that he sent over were on purpose so Sam could eat them. And he also says that Sam will never die from drinking too much, just the way Satan wanted you to be. And he's like, yeah, go eat all of the demons here also. Please. What is he... Why? Just to feed Sam up to be ready.
Yeah, I suppose
for
so.
possession, I guess.
For Lucifer.
But it's like, doesn't he need the demons to bring him souls to eat? Like, I guess he can just get more.
Yeah. This has no self-preservation skills, it seems.
And Dean's like, Sammy, no.
No.
And then there's a moment, and then instead of drinking their blood, Sam uses all of his powers to pull the demons out of their vessels. And he goes, no. Proud of him.
Love him.
And yeah, I mean, Sam has very strong self-control, I suppose, which, like, we see in the greatest form in Swan Song, how he's able to, like, battle Lucifer in his mind or whatever. I guess, I don't know. What was I gonna say? Whatever, it's fine that he's super, super special in that way and all the other people in the town immediately gave in and died. But, you know, whatever. So, Famine eats all of the souls that Sam pulled out. And then Sam, you know, has his hand out in his exorcism or, like, demon-killing posture at Famine. And Famine's like, well, I'm a horseman, so that doesn't work on me. And Sam says, you're right, but it will work on them. And then he pulls all the demon souls out of Famine, and somehow that kills him.
It's so... I don't know what
get
the
it.
fuck they're trying to do here.
Like, they don't even take the ring?
Yeah, I have no idea.
What is this? I don't understand how this works. Like, yeah. I don't understand why Sam seemed so confident that it would work also. Because I don't see how it would work even after I did see it work. So, I mean, it's a fun visual. Like, the souls are, like, punching out of Famine's, like, abdomen and stuff too. Like, not just his mouth, but, like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
We go to Bobby's house, and Cass and Dean are standing outside of the panic room. And we can hear Sam inside, and he's screaming. And I think this is really such an embodiment of who this episode is about.
Yeah, fucking hate
we don't even go
shit.
into the panic room. Like, we don't see into it. And
yeah,
also, like, the fact that Cass is trying to comfort Dean in the scene. Sam is literally
you have healing powers. Like, can't you, like, soothe his mind or do something?
It's so wild.
Yeah, I hate it. And then Cass says, like, an awful line.
Yeah. Cass says, that's not him in there. And I went, boo!
It's so bad. Okay, like, I see, like, there's some utility to a line like that regarding addiction when, like, I don't, like, someone says something really horrible to you, but it's because they're going through withdrawal and, like, they normally wouldn't say that. Like, I think there's, like, some utility to the, like, that wasn't really them part of that if, like, in, like, that situation. But when you're doing it, like, when you're applying it to, like, this person experiencing so much pain and suffering isn't actually the person you love, so you shouldn't worry about all the pain and suffering that they're experiencing during withdrawal. Like, that's fucked.
It is.
Like, Sam's going to remember it. Like, that is him. Like, that's his mind and his body, and they are going through this, and he's going to remember it, and it's going to feel the same as any other pain that you remember. Like, and currently he's experiencing it, and it feels like any pain you're experiencing. Like, I don't know why this was said, or I do know why, and it's Supernatural's a terrible show.
Yeah, Supernatural is so horrible. Anyway, Dean is like, okay, I just need some air. He goes out, and he starts praying, basically. And he goes, please, I can't, I need some help. Please. And
okay, whatever.
Okay, who knows? I mean, it's set up for what happens through the rest of the season, I guess. Well, that's it for this episode. Wait, no.
Of Bussy Asian Beauty.
Exactly.
Next week. No,
well,
okay.
What did we think about this episode?
It was fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
It's like a lot of people are like, this is the best episode of Supernatural, and it's not. So,
well, I wouldn't say it's the best, like, at all. I think it's middling between a plot episode and a case episode, and not in a good way, but I did enjoy it, mostly because I enjoyed seeing Cass be Cass again on my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Best line, worst line. Well, we all know our worst line.
Yeah, that's not him, and they're not really. Best line.
I really like when the woman from, like, the eating each other goes, your neck, I think I bit you. I thought it was so wonderful. It's so romantic.
Yeah, like, there's blood in her teeth.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, Sally. And he's like, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
Whoever said romance is dead.
Exactly. Huh. My best line.
Well, I suppose I also like a lot of Cass's lines this episode.
Yeah, I'm trying to think which Cass line I like.
I think I like the I'm an angel, I can stop anytime I want.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah,
Cass.
that was cute.
Cass.
Yeah, and okay, we just had like this episode. Cass was going through like a form of like something that is akin to an addiction because of famine, and that does not, like, when he comes back from that, there's like absolutely no like compassion for Sam that he's newly found from it. And I guess it's because his whole burger thing was just comic relief the entire episode.
Yeah,
like,
also like famine says to Sam, like, you're the exception that proves the rule because your hunger is not gonna kill you. And it's like, Cass's hunger is also not gonna kill him, I'm pretty sure. So, like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, like, he's had hundreds of burgers and he's fine.
He's the second exception. That proves it.
Yeah.
So fucking stupid.
Yeah. Oh, does he just vanish the burgers after they're in his stomach, or is he, like, in Jimmy's body just, like, shitting every time we don't see him on screen?
I don't know. He slowly digests it through the years, and it's where he gets enough protein to bulk up in the later season.
But, like, where does he store, like, just the volume of the burgers that he ate? Like, they can't all be in his body.
This is true. It's in his pussy, I guess.
Yeah, labia lips dragging along the floor. You just don't see it because it's under the trench coat.
Yeah, it's not relevant to our journey.
Anyway, best line. I mean, I think the we should stop it was really funny.
It was. I love Castiel.
Spread sheets.
Yes. Is there a woman this episode that is like they talked or anything? I don't think so.
No, I mean there's the women
demons,
in the town.
Yeah. Did they do anything?
I don't think the dialogue about being whipped is really meant to be anything that we agree with.
Yeah. How about the version one?
I don't think so.
I also don't think so. I think it's just it's trying to establish that.
Yeah. This is a Ben Edlund first.
Yeah. Wow. Who'd have thought?
Who would have thought? Racism. I mean, there's like one character of color and it's the whipped guy and then he gets shot.
Yeah.
But I guess we don't. I guess that doesn't really. I don't know. Does that fit into what we count as racism points?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wait, and there's another person of color because the doctor who tells us that Dr. Corman is dead is Asian.
Hell yeah.
I guess I made an argument for the Cupid thing, but I think that can be ambiguous. So I'm fine with not.
Wow, Ben Edlund. Proving himself.
Is this the first Zeros one of the season? It is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, IMDb rating.
People like this one.
Yes, they do.
I don't know if they like it more than The Song Remains the Same. I'm not sure.
Highly doubt it.
Yeah.
Is that
people on Tumblr really like this one though, like to like a ridiculous extent.
Is that true?
I feel like I've seen that people really like it, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just seeing a subset of people.
Well, maybe not.
8.9.1 below. The Song Remains the Same shall be my guess.
Okay, mine would be 8.6 actually. I don't think this is highly rated. Okay, let's do it. Okay, so the IMDb rating for this episode is... Oh my god, where is it? It's an 8.8. You're closer.
So I was closer.
Yeah.
Once more.
But I was right in my estimation that it's not highly rated.
It's not Song Remains the Same.
Yeah. The title of this review is One More Reason to Hate Valentine's Day. The review. This episode gave me another reason to hate. No, to fear Valentine's Day. So true.
True.
So true. Oh, I was prepared for a gory episode because the title is My Bloody Valentine, but I have to admit I was not prepared for them eating on each other. Love it. I can't believe that people didn't love that scene. It's so wonderful. Well, I guess this person did because they did give it a 10 out of 10. This one says that it packed a lot into the 40 minutes. I do agree. Like, I think this has a full 40 minutes with just enough of a pacing to still not feel like they're really, really just doing plot at you. Which I liked.
One of the best episodes and so underrated of the season. The scene we get to see Jensen's vulnerability and pain. He is such a diverse actor. Don't know about that one.
Just like Freckles said in The Gay and Wondrous Life of Caleb Gayo.
Yeah.
It's diverse. So true. Well, I think that's it for this episode of Us Asian Beauties. Next week, we will be discussing Season 5, Episode 15, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. Is it plaid or plaid? I still don't know. I should know.
Plaid.
I watched Supernatural. It's plaid? Okay.
Yeah. This one mentions that they're surprised that they didn't see Dean drinking in this episode. Huh. That is true. Like, they have made a bit of a point that he has an alcohol problem, like in Sam Interrupted.
Yeah.
So that does seem like the natural hunger.
Well, maybe just like that girl in the One Direction song, he's addicted to the feeling of letting go. That's why he let go of all his proclivities.
Maybe so.
Love that song. It's so bad.
I don't know what song this is.
I'll play it for you after after we stop recording. It's called She's Not Afraid. So corny. I hate One Direction, but I love it. I can't help it. Just like you, Winchester.
Wait, what does he love that he can't help?
His mom.
His mom?
Yeah. He tells Mary, I hate you, but I love you. I can't help it. Which I like
what
that scene.
What a mean thing.
They were going through a moment, and also it was like in a dream. Like, I'm not sure.
Okay, that's fine then.
But that was Mary. Like, he was in fact saying it to Mary, but like in a dream. Like, Mary's like stuck in a dream, and he's trying to get her out, and he tells her.
Oh, never mind. Like, he knew it was her.
No,
for real.
Yeah, they both knew they were each other, but he was like trying to explain his feelings, and he was like, I hate you, but I love you. I can't help it. I actually, you know what? I will defend that line. Don't insult. Don't denigrate. You don't even know season 12 of Supernatural yet.
Okay.
Or maybe you do.
I mean,
don't know.
she did join the Men of Letters and then sleep with the person who killed Magda and Eileen. So
yeah. So maybe, you know, you can hate her and love her and can't help it.
Maybe so. Follow us on social media. We are on Tumblr at bustyasianbeautiespod.tumblr.com. Our official tag is babpod, BABpod. Thanks to everyone who's donated to our Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/bustyasianbeautiespod, which is where our outtakes live. And check out our merch at babpod.redbubble.com.
You can email us any feedback, comments, or inquiries at bustyasianbeautiespod@gmail.com. See you guys next time. Bye.